Hello everyone. In this lecture, I will cover Chapter 11, Managing Project Execution, which is usually the longest phase and when we spend the highest percentage of the project budget. So effective management of the execution phase has a great bearing on the outcomes of the project. Our learning objective for this chapter is to describe the 10 project management processes involved in project execution and discuss the project manager's activities during execution. You should also be able to explain common problems that occur during execution and to describe the importance of communication during project execution. The case study in the textbook is about the Outdoor Gear Store, REI. Some of you may be familiar with it. REI was actually founded in 1938 as a co-op for sharing mountain climbing gears. The company's IT group has grown over the years to some 60 people, and they realized that they could no longer effectively manage some 600 projects that they had with their disparate systems and collaboration tools. So they implemented an integrated communication and project management tools, which has improved the outcome of their IT projects and has enabled the company to produce award-winning products. To understand the importance of execution, we need to look at the S-curve. The S-curve, which is the shape of the curve, shows the cumulative cost of the project over the project life. As you can see, the amount of money spent during planning or during the closing phase of the project are minimal compared to the cost of spent during the execution phase. That cost can range, depending on the project, can range anywhere from 70 to 90% of the overall project budget that is spent during execution. There are 10 process groups that we use during execution. 8 of these processes we have actually studied in previous chapters, as shown on this slide. The key processes that we will focus on in this lecture is directing the project work and is managing project knowledge. In addition to directing the project work and managing project knowledge, you see that there are other processes that are including in project integration management. Project integration management essentially pulls all these various management tools to effectively manage the project. Let's look in more details at the inputs and outputs of the process for directing and managing project work. Clearly, the management plans and any changes to them are key inputs to this process. As work being performed, the activity lists, lessons learned, and other documents need to be updated as shown as the output of the process. Similarly, These are the inputs and outputs of managed project knowledge process. The primary output of this process is the lessons learned from execution of our project. The purpose of knowledge management is to use the lessons learned from other similar projects that are applicable to our project, recognizing that lessons learned in a project may reside in the project documents and stakeholder register, or even in our contracts or agreements for confidentiality or other unique aspects of our project. For example, we may want to look at the ways other projects have used new technologies, if that's the path that our project needs to take. To ensure we capture lessons learned, we have to recognize that capturing explicit knowledge, for example, creating creative contracting approach, is much easier to capture that knowledge rather than tacit knowledge. These are the knowledge that are tied to experience and for example, like how to nurture relationships with key stakeholders. So it's much harder to capture tacit knowledge. Nonetheless, we need to try to capture them as best as we can. These are some of the key activities that the project manager leads during execution. Project kickoff meeting is extremely important to get the project started in the right direction. For an effective kickoff meeting, it is necessary to have the project executive sponsor present in the meeting to directly communicate the importance of the project to all project participants. Creating and managing communications is another key area for the project manager to focus on making sure that meetings are run effectively, the information systems that need to be available to the project team are available, and the project team has effective collaboration tools. As we mentioned in the case study about REI, this actually can, having an integrated communication and collaboration set of tools would help REI to achieve the outcomes that they were able to achieve. Overseeing procurement and ensuring that RFPs, the request for proposals, are clear and complete, and contractor selection and award process are thorough is another key responsibility for the project manager. I want to share an example with you in terms of project reporting. As in US courts, we deployed a project reporting system that ensured senior executives are aware of the status of various projects. Each project manager had to report every month on key milestones and deliverables on their projects, as well as their cost, schedule, performance. Based on project performance, the project manager had to provide an overall status of the project. Is it on track? Is it at risk? Or is it troubled? Also, if the project is put on hold, is closed, or is pending, they would also indicate the status as such. The individual project reports were then aggregated and rolled up for each office in the agency. This is an example of the report that was prepared for my office, Technology Solution Office. In this particular report, all the projects were on track. One was completed and closed. Another one was pending approval. This type of reporting improved communication and increased transparency of our IT projects among our executives. For example, anyone on senior executive staff could see the details about each project. For example, this report showed the overall assessment of the project, as well as the assessment of schedule, scope, and risk over previous months. Looking at this trend report, one can easily see if various project outcomes are brought under control or not over time by project manager when those outcomes get out of the range of acceptable. In addition to the example of the web-based reporting solution that I shared with you at US course, project managers have other means to communicate the status of the project with various stakeholders, such as through documents or meetings, especially when face-to-face exchange is important, written reports, emails, or other electronic communications to keep. These are all different means that the project manager can keep their stakeholders updated on the status of their project. Today, there are many web-based tools such as Office 365 or Google Docs that enable project staff to collaborate online to produce effective project status reports much more effectively than the old ways that it used to be, that basically documents had to be passed on from one project team member to another to capture the status of their respective tasks in the project status report document. Another key communication area that needs to be managed effectively is related to reporting issues. What are issues? They could be related to bugs that are identified or the improvement ideas that are suggested or questions that have come up. Handling issues through emails or verbal communication create a huge challenge to make sure that all that are needed to be involved on a particular issue are actually involved and included. So to address that challenge nowadays, many organizations use issue tracking systems to facilitate the assignment and tracking of issues. In US courts, we adopted JIRA issue tracking system, which is actually one of the forerunners of issue tracking systems in the industry. During execution, the project manager also needs to monitor progress by comparing actual outcomes versus what was planned and make changes that are required. There are many factors that can cause changes during execution and cause the project deviate from its plans. Some of those issues are listed on this slide, such as weak personnel or poor estimates. The project manager uses many tools to monitor progress. For example, he or she can make sure that the activities scheduled for each week are in fact being carried out. Of course, the project manager has to pay particular attention to the activities that are on the project's critical path. When changes occur, the project manager needs to update project schedule. Uh, for example, if the duration of activities change, it may actually impact the critical path and it may change the critical path for the project. So as the project manager monitors the work, he or she needs to distribute and assign project tasks and ensure that the assigned individuals take ownership of the tasks and update the status of those tasks on periodic basis. And as things change, the project manager has to assess the impact on subsequent tasks um, and also deal with changes in personnel as they happen, and of course manage the vendors and contractors involved with the project. As project is being executed, there may be requests for change to the system. These requests need to be initiated in the issue tracking system. Then each request needs to be reviewed and assessed in terms of its impact on the project, project schedule, project cost, project quality. All of those impacts need to be assessed. Then the project change management board, which typically consists of various stakeholders. That board needs to decide whether or not to accept the request. And if they do accept it, assign a priority to it of how urgent is that. Alternatively, they can reject the request. By having all these requests and their impact and their final resolutions in the issue tracking system, this provides a very transparent system so that all stakeholders can see exactly what changes are being implemented on the system that they expect to have. So this concludes my lecture on chapter 11. Thank you for your attention, and I'll see you later.